Good morning. I'm Steve Thompson, president of Emery Thompson Machinery, a 107-year-old American corporation that builds only batch freezers. Welcome today to Lunch with the President. With me is Tie-Dye Jeff Marco. You can see why we call him Tie-Dye. If you ever want to get in touch with him, he's got the world's greatest email address. It's X, as in the letter X, hippie@AOL.com. So he's very easy to get in touch with, and Jeff's going to help me today show you all how to make old-fashioned hard ice cream, Italian ices, some sorbets, maybe a gelato, and we're just going to talk about anything that comes to mind, which could be anything under the sun. Maybe we'll just talk about music all day from the 60s.
And we'll have fun.
Yes, we will. As you are watching today, as questions come up, you can type them in, and our IT man, Ken, is going to get them, and he'll wave at me, and I'll try to answer them. We have a good audience here today. Those of you in the audience, as questions come up, just raise your hand, and I'll try to answer them right away. If you wait until there's a break in the action, I never stop talking, and if I take a breath, Jeff, picks in. So just raise your hand. We'll try to answer your questions as we go along. And let me just tell you,
1,000 people.
Must be 1,000 people. I don't know how we got all the room here. It's too bad you out there can't see it. Oh, by the way, those of you in Bangkok, Thailand, watching care of my master distributor, Sampong, thank you for visiting us today. I hope you enjoy our presentation. Let me tell you a little bit about Emery Thompson Machinery. It's a company that my grandfather started. He began working in 1903 on a project to build a batch freezer. He was working in a department store down in Manhattan on 14th Street, like what would be today a Macy's department store. Back then, they didn't have ice cream parlors. You got your ice cream either at a pharmacy or at a department store. Down in the basement, Macy's at the time would sell ice cream and pastries and candy. That's why you often see these products sold together, because they were all sold in this one central location. Well, he was using a machine like this, an old-fashioned rock, salt, and ice machine. And these things are very slow. They take about 40 minutes to make a batch. And in 1903, he gross sailed $100,000. Well, in today's money, that's $1.2 million. So he was a hard-working man. So he went back to his house in New Rochelle, New York, to his garage. And a lot of inventions get invented in garages, I guess because our wives throw us out of that living room. But he was working in his garage, and he invented the first modern-day mechanized batch freezer. I know the Italians try to claim that they did it, but no, we did it about 17 years ahead of them. And he had the first world patents on a batch freezer, and that's how our company grew. Then my father and my uncle dropped out of Cornell University during the Great Depression, and they ran the business for many years. And I've been there since I was 16 years old, and now I've been running it for a number of years. And I have children in the business who are looking very actively at it. So the tradition of a family business, of a machine built 100% in the United States, continues on. Every once in a while, you'll see this little hairy monster walk by. It's Sadie. Paul is my golden retriever. And Sadie's been with me since she was a pup, working down in the Bronx, New York, where we were originally located. And now we're down here in Brooksville, Florida, and she's head of security, which, if you know a golden retriever, is a little oxymoron, but nobody ever gets past her. Everybody's got a pet Sadie, so you can't get into this building without petting her. Let me tell you what a batch freezer is. I compare it to an oven. Let's call your oven at home for a moment a batch oven. So you've got this batch oven, and you open the door, and you throw a pie in, and you cook it for 25 minutes, and now you've got an apple pie. A batch freezer is the same way. We're going to load the ingredients into it. We're going to freeze it for a set amount of time. And then, just like the pie, where we take the entire pie out of the oven, we're going to take the entire batch of ice cream out of the machine, and then we're going to go on to the next batch. So let's say after we've baked that pie, we slide in a steak, and we broil that for 12 minutes. Well, over here, we've just made vanilla. Now we're going to make mint chip just by changing the ingredients. And when that steak is ready, we're going to pull that steak out, that whole batch of steak, and then go on to another product. If we left the batch of steak in the oven, what would happen? Well, it would go from medium rare to burned in a couple of minutes. Same thing with a batch freezer. If we leave it in the machine and just let it sit there all day, it's going to change its texture and character, and it won't be what we originally made. So that's why we take a batch out. Just like your batch oven doesn't have a brain. It has no idea what you're putting in there. It doesn't think to itself, oh, he just put a lemon meringue pie in there. No, it doesn't work that way. It's just a big source of heat. A batch freezer is just a big source of cold. So it doesn't know if I sell you this batch freezer to make Italian ices or fresh fruit sorbets or artisan gelato or Haagen-Dazs ice cream. It has no clue. It's just going to freeze down whatever you make. So Emery Thompson's original machine was one of these, only a little bigger, and it was a cylinder. Let me get this over here. And it consisted of a wood bucket, actually his was bigger, and an inner cylinder, and inside the cylinder was what we called the dasher or beater. And the beater is spinning around. It's got two, in this case, two wood knives, and it's spinning around inside the cylinder, scraping the ice cream off the walls. And the source of cold is ice and rock salt. Now you all know that the lakes freeze, up in Michigan, the lakes freeze in the wintertime so hard you can walk on them, but the oceans never freeze. The reason the oceans don't freeze is because they have salt in them. Salt reduces the freezing point of water. So in order to get cold temperatures in here, we put in rock salt, which is just large crystals of ice, large crystals of salt, and we put ice in here, and that's our source of cold. And then we turn that crank for about 45 minutes, and now we've got a quart of ice cream. Well, it's the same concept with a modern day machine, only more mechanized. Thanks, Jeff. Over here, we have a batch freezer, and it's got a cylinder in it, but instead of having it vertical, where we have to scoop the ice cream out when it's finished, we turn it sideways. We turn it horizontal. That way, when all the ice cream is ready, it'll come flowing out of the machine. Emery Thompson's original machines were vertical, but the problem with that is Newton's law of gravity. Whatever goes up must come down. So if I put a bunch of cookies in here, they are going to fall to the bottom of the container, and you'll have an uneven product no matter what anybody says. So we abandoned vertical cylinders all the way back in 1919. Some people still make them over in Italy and sell them in the United States, but it's a concept that makes no sense. So it's a horizontal cylinder. It loads from up the front here so that we're putting the product in like this. It's going in here. And again, a beater here. This one is made out of stainless steel and polymer blades. And the source of cold, instead of rock salt and ice, is now Freon gas, what they call an environmentally friendly propellant. That's modern speak for Freon gas. And that circulates around between the walls of the barrel, and it gets instantly cold. And so where this takes 45 minutes, this will take 8 to 10 minutes. So we're going to start making up a batch. I'm going to start with the small machine, the countertop, and we're going to make a mango Italian ice. And actually, in this one batch, I'm going to make mango Italian ice, I'm going to make mango frozen lemonade, and I'm going to make mango sorbet, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm starting with a product from a company called iRice, and that's called a base. There's 3 ways that you can make Italian ice. You can use fresh fruit, which I have some over here we're going to use later. This happens to be, because blueberries are out of season, this is fresh frozen. You might hear the term, our industry is like everyone else. We come up with complicated terms for simple things. So if you hear someone talk about IQF fruit, it just means instant quick frozen. So this was picked out in the field, put in the bag, and frozen. So that makes it nice and fresh, and we're going to use that later for another product. So you can use fresh fruit, sugar, and water. That's what makes Italian ice such a great product to sell, because your 2 main ingredients are water and sugar. You can't get any cheaper than that. And when you are buying sugar, here's sugar from the local supermarket down here in Florida, which is called Publix, and here is Domino sugar. These are exactly the same product. They probably come out of the same refinery, and there is no difference at all. So there's no sense paying $1 more for this when you can buy this. You might buy sugar in 100-pound bags. Sometimes the supermarket puts this on sale. They call it a loss leader. That means they want to get you into the store so you'll buy more expensive products. So they put this sugar on sale for dirt cheap, and you go in and buy one 5-pound bag, and they've got you in the store. They hate to see me coming or Jeff coming, because when we see it on sale, we go in and buy 50 pounds. We wipe out the store because it's on sale.
And also, you don't need to buy the super fine crystals. As you'll see, this stuff dissolves instantly in almost anything.
It dissolves right in cold water.
Yeah.
So you can use fresh fruit if you have it available in season. Like I like to make, I'm from New York, so I like, if you hear little squeaks and bubbles, that's not Sadie. There is a beautiful young baby over here that you can't see who's visiting us today. She's going to learn how to go into the Italian ice business.
Or into the Italian ice business machine.
Yes. And so you can use fresh fruit, or you can use this product, which is called a base. Now, this is a gallon jug of flavor, and there's also some sugar and water in here, and it's very concentrated. And what I like about this is you can get flavors that normally are hard to find. Like mango isn't something you see every day in the supermarket, but people absolutely love mango Italian ice. So this is available, or you can do it as an extract. And people say, oh, no, wait a minute. I mean, I'm either going to use fresh fruit, or maybe I'll condescend to using a base, which I think is great, but I'm not going to use an extract. Well, my question is, how are you going to make bubblegum Italian ice? I mean, we have everything growing here in Florida, but we don't have bubblegum trees. So I use a bubblegum extract. Just like you buy vanilla extract at the supermarket to bake a lemon cake, I am buying bubblegum extract, and a gallon jug of bubblegum is probably going to last you 2 years, because you're only going to use a couple of ounces to flavor the whole batch of sugar water. So this product we call Italian ice, or in Philadelphia they call it Italian water ice. Out in Hawaii, my customer Bubby's calls it Hawaiian ice. Down in Alabama, it's called Greek ice. Because there were 6 Greek brothers who left Brooklyn and moved to Birmingham, Alabama, and they said, why should we call it Italian ice when we're Greek? So they call it Greek ice. You can really call it anything you want, but it's basically just sugar, water, and flavor.
You know a lot of stuff, you know?
Well, I've been around a long time.
A lot of stuff.
And it's all stuck up in here, waiting to get out. So the first thing we're going to do is sanitize the machine. We're going to sterilize it. We want to kill off any bacteria that may have grown in it since the last time I ran it. So I've got some cold water here, and I'm going to use a commercial sanitizer. This is a product called Sterasheen, which is easy to find on the internet. It's Sterasheen green label, and it's made by a company called Purdy Products. And it's basically a chlorine-based sanitizer. Most all your sanitizers are chlorine-based. In a pinch, you could use a cap, not a cup, but a cap full of Clorox bleach to a gallon of water. That is going to do the same job, but health departments tend to freak out that you're using Clorox bleach. And in the old days, I used to try to argue with them and say, well, what do you think I put in my swimming pool? Chlorine. Well, I don't argue with them anymore. So if you read and follow the manufacturer's directions, you can put this exact amount into the right amount of water, and you're good to go. I don't tend to read and follow manufacturer's directions, so I'm putting what I know is a fair amount in, and then I'm going to mix it up and pour it in the machine. And then if you follow the instructions, you don't have to rinse. You can go right into making product. I will put through just a brief rinse. Jeff, can I trouble you for another bucket when you're free? Mm-hmm. Always make sure that the gate, the door, is closed before you go putting product in. Because the last thing you did was take the ice cream or the ices out. And so that means the door was left open. And you're standing there pouring stuff in, and Jeff was laughing before because he's done it too. You're pouring it in, and it's going all over the floor, and the brain doesn't act quick enough to say, now why, where's the machine leaking? It's an Emery-Thompson, it doesn't leak. Well, you've left the gate open. So that's why it's coming out. So make sure the gate's closed before you go pouring any water in.
Do you want another bucket with stuff in it, or
Just with cold water as a rinse, please. Jeff owns Mystic Ices and Creams up in a wonderful name of a town for an ice cream parlor. He's in Fruitville, Florida.
No, he's not.
You're not in Fruitville
No.
anymore? You know that they sold out the town?
Fruitland Park.
Fruitland Park. Okay. I knew
thought you
fruit
knew
was in there
everything.
somewhere. And Fruitland Park is just outside on the edge of a wonderful retirement community called the Villages. Thousands of people. And those thousands of people all come to Jeff's Ice Cream Parlor. You're only open, what, 6 to 10 at night?
6 to 10 at night.
And it's not that he doesn't like children.
Yes,
he
it
just,
is.
Oh, he doesn't like children. So, except for the baby over there. She's fine. Except for that, Jeff only wants to deal with adults. So he's open from 6 to 10, and he has a land office business. It's just fantastic. I've poured the water in. I'm turning on the beater. So now it's spinning around. And actually, the second that sterile water hits the parts, it's clean. But the health department usually wants you to wait for a minute or so. When I take this product out, when we take ices out of here, you'll see that I'll be turning off the refrigeration so it doesn't get any colder. I'll leave the beater or dasher spinning to help push the product out. The product is going to be thick, so it's going to flow out nicely. Now, since we're just using water, if I open this gate right now, I'm going to get a bath because the water's so loose. So I'm going to turn that off and then open the gate. And the barrel has a slight pitch to it, so it's all going to come out of the machine. And then I like, hey, here's Sadie. Hey, Sadie, come here. Come here, girl. Say hi to everybody. Sadie likes fruit. There you go. Especially clementines.
Don't try this at home.
All right, so for all of you who are watching, I'll go over here and sanitize my hands. But dog lovers know you don't have to do that. All right, so I'm going to close the gate. I like to keep this water handy. I'm going to put it right down here because now anything that comes in contact with the ice cream, say a spatula, I can dip it in here, and now it's more sanitary than it was. So that's closed up again. I'm going to just rinse it out, and we'll be ready to make product. Any questions you have, just ask Jeff. Just raise your hand and ask Jeff. He knows them better than I do.
Do you know of a company that carries organic bases?
Where are you in the country?
Clearwater.
Clearwater. I don't know of anyone in Clearwater doing it. It's pretty rare. California, yes. A little bit of New England, but it's very rare. And I'm sorry, I forgot to repeat his question so you in the audience could hear it. He asked where to get an organic base. Strauss Family Creamery is a famous one in San Francisco, but it's really hard to find organic. But while I'm doing this, let's just touch on organic for a second. I got into this debate with Vito Panza, a company called A. Panza & Sons in Edison, New Jersey. Great company. They supply all different products for ice cream and ices. And Vito and I get into heated debates. That means we both talk with our hands. You know, we're discussing, you know, the merits of both. And I was discussing organic, and he said organic in this environment, in this economy, is a tough sell. Because if a head of lettuce in the supermarket is 99 cents and a organic head of lettuce is $1.89, in this economy, people aren't going to spend the extra money. They will spend it for all natural. If I can give you a product that is milk, cream, sugar, skim milk, and call that ice cream, or Italian ices, sugar, water, and flavor, you're going to like that better than having polysorbate 80 and different products that I can't even pronounce in the ice cream or the ices. So I think all natural is very important when you can do it. But the organic is, at the moment, is tough. It will turn. The economy will improve.
And why not take the lead of the supermarkets who put an awful lot of time and money into research and development, they don't have an entire organic supermarket. Take Publix here in Florida. They have a section, so they know that they can afford to support that section, which may not make all the money for them, by having a larger full supermarket. So you can do that in an ice cream store. You know, keep it real simple. That's why I'm here, to show you how to keep it simple. Have your regular ice creams, and then have some organic, and see how that market goes. If you're going to open up with organic ice cream, you might close up in 3 months. It might not pay. You might not be able to do it. Even though ideally, as a person who wants to go that way, you may not be able to do it. So why not start where you can make some money from day one? Ice cream, good old ice cream. And then have some organic flavors that you're going to have to charge more for. I charge $5 for a cone or a bowl. If it were organic, it would probably have to be $6.50. People may not want to spend that. You get a family of 4 coming in, they don't want to go $30 for ice cream. So see how it goes. I'm not saying give up your ideals, but be practical. You got to make money, and you got to stay in business. And that's really why he has me here, to show you how simple this business can be and should be. I opened up, I made money from the first day. And I've added things, I've changed things, but I know that to make money, I know what I have to do. So keep that in mind.
Thank you.
You know, even all natural. Most of my stuff is all natural. I don't use anything here. Sorry.
That's fine.
I have no shelf like this. I have no extracts, no bases, no colorings, no flavorings. I use none of that. Later on, I'll show you how to run an incredibly simple, successful business without using that.
Okay. Now I'm going to add the sugar to the water and just stir that up. That's just plain tap water, and the sugar will dissolve very quickly. A really good question that you haven't asked yet is, do I need to filter my water? Well, the answer is a definite yes and no, and more to the no. This is Brooksville, Florida. This is in the middle of absolutely nowhere. There are parts of Florida that are nowhere, and this is the capital of nowhere. And the people who grew up and live here have been here all their lives. One tourist came through back in 1986, and another one hasn't been seen since. So the product that we're selling is a product from the water that they grew up drinking. This is what they're used to. I think it's terrible water. It's very high in mineral content. It's awful. But this water is what everybody in Brooksville grew up drinking. This is what they know. And so the taste of this product is going to be familiar to them. Now, if I'm in Miami, that's a whole different story. Everybody in Miami is from the north and down on vacation or down here retired. And so there you have to filter the water because it has to taste like it tasted when they had it at home. When they went to the Ice King of Corona on a Saturday to get ice from Peter Benfarimo, he was using good New York water. Good New York water has a wonderful filtration system. It starts up in Mount Kisco, up in the mountains, consists of a wire mesh screen to catch the truck tires and the dead bodies. And from there on, it works its way down and gets filtered, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So in Miami, yes, you'd put in a filtration system. Here in Brooksville, or maybe your town, Shaker Heights, Ohio, or West LA, you don't have to filter the water because the people who live there are your audience. So I'm going to pour this in. This is our CB350 countertop batch freezer, our smallest machine. And we'll talk about it a little later in the features and the infinite overrun control and all the things it can do, but I've been talking so much I need some of this Italian ice. And I tend to spill a little, so I'll put a little bucket here. And then this is my base. I'm going to pour in the mango. I'm going to turn the machine on. Now it's spinning and spitting. Just pour that right in.
So just to review, for those of you not sitting here with these cheat sheets, it's a quart of mango base, 1 pound of sugar, and 3.5 quarts of water.
And now I'm going to turn on the refrigeration. It worked. I'm always pleased when they turn on. And I'm going to start a timer. I'm a gadget freak. I love gadgets. It takes me 20 minutes to get into my own house through the security system just because I love gadgets so much. But I don't put gadgets on my machines. Anything that's on this machine has been tested for many years, like the infinite overrun control is I invented 11 years ago. But it's noticeable for the things you don't see. One thing you don't see on this machine or any of my machines is a timer, which I need to set one. So let me do that. I don't put timers on because the machine is built to two very rigorous standards: Underwriters Laboratories, UL, and NSF, National Sanitation Foundation. National Sanitation Foundation says that if I stick a timer on that machine, it has to be NSF approved for sanitary. UL says it has to meet their electrical codes. That timer is going to cost about $250. And if that timer breaks, it's going to take down the whole machine. So you're going to call in a repairman to change the timer, and you're probably going to have a $400 bill to change this timer. What I use, I have a nice assortment here. Here's a KitchenAid timer. This was my most expensive one. This cost $11 at CVS Pharmacy. Here's a Bell Farberware one. I think this was $6. And Vonda, my bookkeeper, got me this ice cream cone timer when she was last on vacation. That's my favorite. So any one of these will do the same job. The nice thing about this timer is if my product is going to take a certain amount of time, let's say 18 minutes, I'll set the timer for 15 minutes so that when it goes off, I can be doing other things. When you first get a machine, you're standing there going, oh, it's like getting a new washing machine. You're sitting there going, wow, isn't that cool? But after that, you'll learn you ought to be doing something more productive than just saying, wow, it's cool. You should be getting your flavors ready for your next batch. So you've got the timer going, and you're preparing stuff, and when the bell goes off, then you say to yourself, oh, okay, I have 2 minutes to get back to the machine and check on the product. What I can do here, and I don't recommend it, is I can go into my office and work on the phone and take the timer with me. If it was attached to the machine, I certainly couldn't be carrying it along with me. Do not talk on the phone when you're making ice cream. A friend of mine, Gary's Ice Cream up in Chelmsford, Mass, has a big sign over his ice cream room, says something to the effect of, "We love you, but go away. I'm making ice cream." And the point is, when you're making ice cream and ices, you're making your inventory for your store. Don't be interrupted on the phone by someone who's going to then risk ruining the batch because you got off doing something else.
And remember, making ice cream, he has one take on it. His take is the science of making ice cream. My take on it is the art of making ice cream. So you can take all these timers and throw them away, and when you see books with recipes in it that give you times, forget about it. It has no bearing on your ice cream, because as you'll see later, I extract my ice cream before he extracts the same ice cream. I like it a little looser. I can play with it then. Steve, he's right, the timer can be used as an overview, just so you don't forget where you are. But if your ice cream is a minute before it should be done and you take it out, it'll be great. If it's 30 seconds after, it'll be terrible. And I've thrown away many gallons of ice cream like that. You're shaking your head, you know that, right?
Underdo it?
Yeah, I'd always rather underdo it. When I overdo it, the ice cream tastes like chalky butter. It's no good. So I always go on the side of caution. I err on the side of caution. I'd rather have it thinner anyway.
Well, what we're trying to show you today is this is not rocket science. This is really pretty easy stuff. And the machine is doing the bulk of the work for you, and the rest of it is just simple measuring things out and pouring it in.
It's really simple. And I know you're going to overcomplicate this, but just go ahead and open up a store, the smallest one you can afford, buy a great machine, and that's it. You're done. If you got a head on your shoulders, this is the simplest, most profitable way to make money in the whole world.
And it's fun.
It's amazing fun.
The question is, what's the digital printout? I'm so glad you asked. Here comes the cheap sales pitch. This is something that I invented 11 years ago called the Infinite Overrun control. It's exclusive to Emery Thompson. No one else has figured out how to do it, but that's what we are. We're innovation. This tells me how many revolutions per minute that beater is spinning around. Now, I can change the speed. I don't think you'll be able to see that out on the TV, but I can lower the speed. I can raise the speed to just about anything I want. So we call it the Infinite Overrun control. Now, what that means, I've just overspeeded. Let me take that down. What that means is, well, let me put it this way. Do you have that bowl I saw a minute ago? Oh, that's okay. You have a bowl and you pour some cream into it. Thank you. And if you take a whisk and you stir the cream like this, after about 5 minutes, you'll still have cream. That's all it is. But if I take an electric mixer and I put it in here and I spin it really fast, it turns into whipped cream. Well, the way ice cream is made, ice cream consists of the dairy products, the flavor, and the air. This doesn't really apply to this product, Italian Ice. But air is an important component of ice cream. Without air, you'd be selling lard. It would just heavy and greasy and not very tasty. We get people calling up and saying, I want no air in my ice cream. And I just kind of sigh and nod my head, and I figure, well, in a little while, I'll be able to teach them, what's really going on. But by controlling the air content, we can go from a Haagen-Dazs ice cream and Ben & Jerry ice cream, who we put in business with our machines, all the way up to Breyers and Bluebell, who we also put in business. Now, you might say Haagen-Dazs is a better quality. Well, it's really dependent on what you feel like eating. Compare it like this. A birthday cake is a high air content product. A pound cake is a very heavy cake. They're both cakes, but let me ask you, which would you rather have a second portion of? A birthday cake or a pound cake? Most people, if they're honest, will actually say, I'd rather have another piece of birthday cake. So that would be a high air content birthday cake, and the pound cake would be low. With my Infinite Overrun, I can change the speed from high to low and anything in between, infinite speeds, so I can give you any kind of air content frozen dessert that you want. Nobody else has been able to do it because you say, well, gee, why don't you just put a rheostat? A rheostat, that's what dims the lights in your dining room. Why not put a rheostat on? Well, when you dim down the lights in your dining room, you're dimming down the light bulb from 60 watts down to 15. You're taking the power away from the light bulb. Same thing here. If we dim the machine, we're taking the 1 horsepower motor and dimming it down to an 8th horsepower. It's not strong enough to pull through this product. With the Infinite Overrun control, with my design, no matter what speed I run it at, no matter how much I dim it down, it's still going to pull at the same power and velocity. There's something else, Jeff, on the machine now. I think I just sent you one. There's a little tiny square here that's got all sorts of squiggles on it, and that's called a QR code. And we're the first people, again, we are an innovative company. I stand in the shower and think these things up. That is a code that you can take a smartphone, hold it up to it, and it'll go ding, and then it will open up to Emery Thompson's help desk. And there we have all our instruction manuals going back 50 years, even though we've been in business 107. 50 seems like a good figure. We have DVDs that open up. One of them says, my wife thinks you're twisted. And that's an opening line about an old machine, 70 years old, how the frame had gotten twisted and how to fix it. Another is called you don't need an expansion valve. It's not your expansion valve, it's you. And what that means is your mechanic is saying on a 10-year-old machine, oh, you need to change the expansion valve. No, you don't. You didn't sharpen your blades in 10 years, and now it's time to re-edge them after 10 years. And that will bring back the machine running fine.
I even put one of those on my, I have, what do you call them, a QR code.
QR code.
And last time I was here, you set me up with one, and now I use it for my hours, flavors, times, addresses, the whole thing.
Yeah, they're really handy. Now I want to, this is almost ready, I want to show you 3 different products. There's a product that's sold up in New England called frozen lemonade. even though they can sell it in different flavors. It's sold in a cup and with a spoon. That's frozen lemonade. Sugar, water, and flavor. Oh, this is good. I'd give you some, but it's mine. That is frozen lemonade. Now, let me show you Italian ice. Let's use this pan. Watch carefully. This is going to come out fast. The key to making this product just like your oven is when that steak is ready, you got to get it out of that oven quick or it's going to burn. Look how fast that's coming out. That's our mango Italian ice. Now, I said it was different products. I showed you the frozen lemonade. I can sell this as Italian ice, and I'm going to let you all taste it. And I can put it, this is a traditional New York way of eating it. That's called a squeeze cup. If you ask your paper supplier for squeeze cups, he'll look at you like a deer in the headlights. Its technical name is a pleated water cup. You know, like you go to a water fountain, pull down the cup, get some water. And what we do in New York, thank you, we squeeze that up and eat it from the bottom. It's a lot of fun, and you couldn't get a cheaper delivery system than that. Now, I take the same product and I go to a fancy French restaurant, and Monsieur, how would you like to buy for me some fresh mango sorbet? And get $6 a portion for it. Well, there's your mango sorbet right there. Sugar, water, and flavor. There is no difference between sorbet and Italian ice, only the name and how much money I can get for it. So by putting it into that nice dish as opposed to this cheap little cup, I can get $1.50 for this, and the restaurateur can get $5 for that easy. And that's the only difference. So let's try this and see what you think. If you'll all come up over here, we'll serve this. So come on up. And that's, you can see that's a beautiful product. And that's just sugar, water, and flavor. Can't beat that. Jeff, you want to try this?
Yeah.
I'll leave you a portion here.
What's the shelf life?
The shelf life of this, what is the shelf life of this? If I take this and put it in a 0-degree freezer, it's going to be about 3 months. If I take it right now and put it into my serving cabinet, it's going to be about 5 days. So with Italian ice, you become very dependent on the weather. You look and you say, okay, this is Wednesday, and we're in Birmingham, Alabama, and it's going to be a beautiful weekend. We know we're going to sell a lot of ice. Let's make 5 or 6 batches of the mango and put them in the freezer and have them for the weekend. If the Weather Channel says, oh, it's going to be a rainy, crummy weekend in Birmingham, well, then we will only make 1 batch. And then what happens? The Weather Channel, of course, is always wrong, and at 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon, the sun comes out and it's a beautiful day. Well, with Italian ice, you can run back to your machine, and in under 20 minutes, you can have another batch ready to go. So you can make it as you need it. So I like to see this product, unlike ice cream, be weather dependent. Produce it as you're going to need it. So now we're going to move on to an ice cream. And this ice cream is banana chocolate chip. And I chose it because it really gives you a good overview of what the machinery can do. You can't put nuts, cookies, candies, whole fruits into any other machine on the market because their openings are so small and their beaters or the dasher are so flimsy that it'll hurt them. Also, our barrels are 6 times thicker than anyone else. Everyone else makes a freezing cylinder like this. This pan started life as a thin sheet of stainless steel, and a big press came down and stamped it and formed it into this piece. Well, as you stamp it, it gets even thinner and cheaper. What we do is we take plate stainless steel, flat stainless steel, and we roll it on a big, huge machine, and then we weld it, and then we weld on the back plate, and that becomes our freezing cylinder. So it's durable enough to put nuts, cookies. What was it you put in the other day?
Rock hard pralines. Pralines
like
out of
fun.
the oven after you let them cool. A praline is a pecan, brown sugar, and butter, and I make them in the oven on a baking sheet, and then when they come out, you try to break them up a little bit, but you can't. They're as hard as rocks. And I make an amazing flavor, vanilla caramel praline. So what I do is I just throw the rock-hard pralines right into the machine, and depending upon when you throw them in, it'll either keep them large, make them real small like little peas, or a combination of the two. I like a combination of the two. You know, when you're eating ice cream and you get that big piece of something, oh, that's like it's Christmas. But other times you want the flavor to go through the whole thing. These machines, I mean, he doesn't pay me to say this, but he should. But they're amazing because I throw everything in there. And the art of it is when you put it in. If you want Oreo cookie ice cream, would you put it in at the very beginning, in the middle, or at the very end? So there's lots of variables there. Same thing with my pralines. I now use chocolate chunk for my chocolate included ice creams, and I throw in big chunks of bittersweet chocolate, and the machine takes care of making them varying sizes. Before we go on, one thing, you saw me clean the machine. This is amazing. These machines are, like you said, the barrels are tilted down. They're canted a little bit, and look how, you really can't see it, but look how clean the water is, and this is just the second batch of water. The first batch cleared out all the mango stuff. The second batch is, you could drink this, it's clean water. So the machine is now ready for your next batch of ice cream. Yes?
That was my question. You didn't put cleaner when you flushed the machine out?
No, the machine is already sterilized. You do that once before you start your process of making ice creams. There's nothing that went in there that will de-sterilize it or contaminate it.
As long as you don't put your hands, if you don't open it up and put your hands in there, the machine is sterile.
Right, and that's for all day. I make ice cream, sometimes I'm at that machine for 8 to 10 hours.
All different flavors.
All different flavors. And you can't get this from other machines because it just thrusts it out so fast that it takes all that residue with it. It's an amazing piece of equipment.
Now, you don't have to rinse between every batch. What you do, we are doing a lot of rinsing because we're jumping around doing all sorts of different exotic things. But if you were planning production, if you were making ice cream like Jeff for the next 8 hours, you might start with vanilla ice cream. Then you may make a butterscotch swirl. Butterscotch swirl is vanilla in the machine, and you're adding the swirl as it's coming out. There's a little notch in the door here, and you can take a pastry bag and fill it with chocolate or butterscotch or strawberry, whatever you want. And as the ice cream's coming out, squeeze the bag, and now you're putting in a ribbon of butterscotch into the ice cream. So we can make all the vanillas we want, then we can make the swirls, then we can make chocolate chip, where we're going to throw chips into the machine, then we make chocolate chip mint, where we're throwing chips into the machine and making mint, and then after all that ice cream, then we rinse the machine. I could even go from chocolate chip to, say, Oreo cookie or Cookie Monster, which we're going to make later, because a few chips in the Cookie Monster, which has chips in it anyway, aren't going to matter. So you plan your production throughout the day so you don't have to rinse the machine out. But when you do, it's very simple. Now, here's a very controversial product. And like I said, we give complicated names to simple things. We give this a horrible name. We call this mix. And it just sounds awful. It doesn't sound fresh or anything like that. Americans make the best ice cream in the world because we have access to this. This is nothing more than milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. Skim milk's a secret ingredient because skim milk is heavy cream with all the fat removed. So it's really good for you to use in your coffee. You really should switch from whole milk down to skim milk because skim milk has so low in fat or no fat. This came out of the cow 2 days ago. 2 days ago, the cow gave milk, and it was shipped to the dairy, and the dairy separated into cream and whole milk and low-fat milk and skim milk. And then they put it all together, and they put it in these plastic bags. It's never, except for being pasteurized, it's never left refrigeration. And then it's put up in these bags and delivered to me, and I kept it refrigerated overnight until I'm ready to make ice cream. This is the freshest stuff on earth, made by professionals, people who have years and years in dairy science and know how to blend it together. Doesn't mean that you can't do it on your own, but quite frankly, you don't have the knowledge and skill that they do. But if you do want to do it on your own, it is possible. Ken, you had a question.
Which is more profitable, ice cream or Italian ice?
Which is more profitable, ice cream or Italian ice? Definitely Italian ice. The ingredients are sugar, water, and flavor.
However, you can have all the profit you want in Italian ice, but if you're selling it in an area where people don't know what Italian ice is, you're going out of business. So it's very profitable. It's 2 cents for a serving of Italian ice that you're going to sell for $2. Very profitable. But if I sold it in my store, people are going to walk in and think I'm on the moon. What the heck is Italian ices? And no, they want ice cream. So it's profitable, but you got to know your market. And just like I told you before, if you want to sell Italian ice, set up your ice cream market. The whole world likes ice cream. They like good ice cream, and they'll pay for it. So then have your organic, then have your all natural, then have your Italian ices. You know, but really establish a base to make some money. You know, I want to see everybody succeed like I did. Today, right while I'm here in Brooksville, they're doing my 3rd expansion in my store. I've been open 2 years, and now we're going, we started with just a takeout, and then I went to a 25-seat eat-in place, and now when I get back tonight, I'll have a 60-seat in-house eating ice cream cafe. It's very simple business. I wish I was your age and going into this business right now. Right out of college, if I could turn back the clock, I would do this. Profit, fun, enjoyment, and people come in for ice cream. I mean, they're in a great mood. It's a great business. Just keep it simple, very simple. Make a great quality product, put a fair price on it, and treat people like family. You can't fail.
I'm going to pour in the ice cream mix right now. This is the blend, milk, cream, sugar, skim milk. It's sold by fat content. Tom Carvel from New York always used to, with his gravelly voice, say, I only put in the best butter into my ice cream to have the highest butter fat. Butter fat is a scientific term. It's really milk fat. There's no butter in ice cream. Just milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk.
Yes.
You mentioned that you didn't have any of the bases or anything, so if you were making the same kind of sorbet, what would you have done exactly?
Mango sorbet, see, I'm not a believer in using fresh fruit because it's too variable. You get a good ripe batch of mangoes one day, and the next day, no. Truthfully, I don't sell anything with mango in it because I can't find mango that's consistent without using a base with chemicals in it.
Let me get this one going, and then I'll have you tell them about how you do it.
Okay.
We're just going to start this up. The ice cream blend is in there. I'm going to set a timer. And now we're going to do what you can't do in any other machine. We're going to throw all these good things into it. Bananas. I've got some pure vanilla here. I'm going to, like I said, I don't follow directions very well. I'm just going to put a splash in, a couple of ounces.
Is that the 12-quart?
This is the 12-quart batch freezer. Do you want to peel some of these and throw them in?
No.
I'll take one side and you do the other.
What? No, the mix is in there.
You need milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. You could make your own formula, but the health department says you have to pasteurize it before you put it in. So you're looking at thousands of dollars, and you're buying it retail at Publix, at the supermarket, whereas we're buying it wholesale from the dairy.
And wherever you live, you can get mix delivered once a week. Every Tuesday, I'm in Fruitland Park, and every Tuesday they deliver about 60 gallons of mix. You know, I call it fresh cream, but it's fresh, and I get it unfrozen, and it comes from South Florida. So most of these places have a route, and all they're going to do is add you to their route. They may have a minimum that you have to buy, but they'll work with you.
Now, you can say you don't want to use milk mix, but really, it's the same as saying, I don't want to buy milk at the supermarket. I want to have a cow in my backyard, and I want to milk it, and then I want to pasteurize it, and then homogenize it, and then chill it, and then serve it to my family. Yes, it can be done, but does it make sense?
I understand that you can't, I mean, milk that's buying in the grocery store.
The health department, the federal government, the FDA says that even though the product in the supermarket, the milk, cream, sugar, milk, cream, and skim milk have been pasteurized and homogenized, when you bring it home and put it in or to your store and want to make ice cream with it, you have to re-pasteurize it. It's a stupid law. It goes back to the Great Depression, and it was the first signs of the government taking over our food, quite frankly, without getting into great detail. But you cannot go out to the supermarket and buy those fresh ingredients and just pour them into a machine and then sell it retail. You can do it for your family, but you can't sell it retail.
But again, keeping it simple means buy the mix, I get it delivered unfrozen, and then I freeze it how I want. And they deliver it Tuesday night. I take it unfrozen, and I partition it off. I freeze some of it, and I keep some for making ice cream.
So to make ice cream commercially, you have to have the mix.
Absolutely.
Or you have to buy a pasteurizer and do all this process in your own store. And when you do, yeah, same thing
Sure,
with gelato.
everything.
And when you do that, you're going to have the health department living with you because they want to see your recordings and your times of how long you pasteurized it for. It can be done. People do it, and they're successful.
Watch what you're doing.
I'm trying. Now, see what I'm doing? I'm pouring in a whole bag of chips that I bought at the supermarket. You can't do that in any other machine.
Did you start the refrigerant yet?
It's on. It's been running.
Okay.
So we've got everything in there.
Depending upon when you add those chips, you'll come out with little tiny pieces, larger pieces, or full chips.
These pieces are pretty hard, so they're not going to change. These are the Toll House Nestle.
Are there different chips you can get especially for ice cream that aren't going to harden up as much?
No, not especially for ice cream, but you can buy, there's a whole world of different chocolate.
Yeah.
I use white chocolate chunks, dark chocolate chunks, milk chocolate chunks, and then I use chips of all different kinds too.
Not formulated differently though, so that it doesn't
No,
freeze up and get hard.
no, not at all. He wanted me to tell you a little bit about my history in this. I sat where that pretty lady is sitting in the back there 2 years ago, and I've been retired. And when he made the ice cream, now that he's not here, I can tell you this, I sat in the back and I tasted it and said, I can do better. I can make my ice cream better. So I went home, convinced my wife that we were going to go into the ice cream business, and I bought the small machine. And I set it up in my kitchen. I had them run a 220 line, and I put a tarp on the floor. And for the next month, my neighbors got all sorts of good and bad ice cream. It was bad in the beginning, but boy, it got good pretty soon because of the art of making ice cream. Forget the science. The machine does everything. And after that, I opened up a little wholesale place. I was in an 8x10 room that I found for $400 a month, and I was going around to restaurants and selling it. And they loved it. They said, bring it in. But I found out real quickly that they don't know how to take care of your ice cream. They don't care about your ice cream. They'd rather have the people leave, get a new sitting on the table, than have people linger 15 minutes for dessert. So after about 3 weeks of feeling great that all these restaurants were using my ice cream, I went around and pulled it out. And as I pulled it out, it was sickening. It was all frosty on top because they didn't cover it. The scoops were in water that you don't even want to know about. It was terrible. So I pulled it out, and then people started coming into the place where I was, the front door. I was in the back, asking if they can buy a cone or a bowl of ice cream. Well, that went pretty good because the ice cream is great. I make really good ice cream, and I'll tell you the secret in a minute. But I went from that to a walk-up type place where people would walk in, buy a cone or a bowl, and leave. Always $5. That's it, $5 a serving. And it got so popular that I had to knock down a few walls and make seating there, which I did. And I had seating for 25. And then today, tonight it'll be completed. We're expanding to seating for 60. And every night there's lines at the door to get this stuff. It's real simple. Just make good ice cream. And to make good ice cream, what I do is not what anyone else that I know of does. When I started, I would go to supermarkets and grocery stores and with a cart and walk through and look at all the products on the shelves thinking, would that make good ice cream? Would that make good ice cream? Not knowing how to do it, but would it make good ice cream? So if I found, well, one example we're going to try today is my key lime ice cream, which was one of my first ones, and it's amazing. I saw key lime pie filling, and man, I love key lime. Everybody likes key lime pie. So I threw a few cans in the cart, and then I got to thinking, well, there's apple pie filling, there's cherry pie filling. So I threw those in the cart. And then you keep going and you see coconut grated in its juices. Put that in the cart. Pineapple in syrup or in its own, throw that in the cart. I came back with all these things, and I can make ice cream out of anything because it's ridiculously simple. Once you buy that mix that you're reluctant to buy, you can make anything. You just got to think a little bit. The key lime that we'll taste, I'm sort of jumping the gun, but I opened a few cans, put it in a bowl, and tasted it, and it was delicious by itself. But now we have to add the mix. So I wanted to add about 5 quarts of mix to make a batch of this. So when I added it and mixed it up, it wasn't strong anymore, the flavor. It was diluted. All my ice creams are bold. They're very flavorful. So what I did was I went out and I bought Key West key lime juice, really strong but good key lime juice. And I poured some in. I measured it because I'll tell you about recipe making soon also. But I poured it in and I mixed it up, and now the flavor was back. It was really bold key lime flavor. But of course it was too tart because I added all that lime juice. So how do you counteract that? You add sugar. So now I've got the balance of the key lime pie filling, the key lime juice, and a little sugar. Add my mix, and you're going to taste the most amazing key lime ice cream yet. But that's all it is. You go through, and the best supermarkets and groceries are the ethnic ones, where there's stuff I never even thought about. And I go through the best are Latin markets, Latin and Asian markets. Man, you find all sorts of stuff in there. But anything that you see on the shelf, whether it's a liquid, a solid, a cookie, a paste, anything you can make ice cream out of. I don't sell, in my store, one second, I don't sell any flavor that you can buy in the supermarket. None. Because if I'm selling a cone, think about it. Would you come into me for a cone for $5 when for $3.99 you can buy a half gallon of that same flavor?
We're ready here. Gotta cut you off. I want to show people that when you open that and close it, that's almost ready. We're going to give it another minute. I'm looking for it to cut off like a knife went through it.
See, I take it out now.
You got to take it out now?
No, I do, but you don't. That's okay.
I'm going to give it a little bit more.
That's the art of the ice cream. You know, he would take it out now, I wouldn't. Yes, ma'am. I have 35 flavors. The question was, do I make different flavors on a whim? I have 35 flavors. About 20 of them are all the time flavors. But if I see something, I have to make it. You know, that's the fun of this business. Why would you want to be stuck with, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 flavors? When somebody said to me, a customer said, hey, how about something with peanut butter? I said, okay. I bought the peanut butter, and then I thought, what goes good with peanut butter? Of course, chocolate.
I had to interrupt you again. I just turned off see, ice cream doesn't wait. I turned off the refrigeration switch because it's now frozen. I'm going to put it into half-gallon containers because I want to give this out to friends of mine. But watch how fast that comes out. And all the bananas and chips are in there. That's 2 stuck together. Again, the idea is get it out quickly so that you keep it consistent. And we're going to leave a couple for here for everybody to try it.
How many gallons does that hold?
This is 3 gallons. Up to 3 gallons. You can make less. Depends on how you put together your formula. And as you saw from what Jeff was saying, every ice cream maker does it a little differently. I pull it a little stiffer than Jeff does.
Mine's better.
Now, the thing about Italian ices was what you see is what you get. Meaning that if you taste it as a liquid, that's what it's going to come out as. It's going to come out with that flavor. Ice cream ages. So the ice cream you're going to taste now is going to have more flavor this time tomorrow.
What's the difference between ice cream and gelato?
The difference between ice cream and gelato is they're both dairy products, milk, cream, sugar, and skim milk. The gelato is going to be a lower fat product, and we're going to run it at a very low speed so it has very little air in it. Also, it's different flavors. In an ice cream parlor like Jeff's, you'll see mint chip, Oreo cookie, maple walnut. In a gelateria, it's going to be tiramisu, fruity Tabasco, hazelnut, more European flavors, which is very nice, and it sells nicely over in Europe. And if I was doing an ice cream parlor like Jeff's, I would probably have American ice cream, gelatos, and Italian ices. I would not have just a gelateria. The reason is 3 of us walk into, let's call it Tie-Dye Jeff's Gelateria. Well, Tie-Dye Jeff's Gelateria is going to have the tiramisu and the hazelnut and all these Italian flavors. And yeah, I'll talk while that's being served. They'll have all these Italian flavors, and so 3 of us walk in. 1 of us wants hazelnut, another wants Oreo cookie, and another wants lemon Italian ice. Well, we only sell gelato, so we have now turned away 2/3 of the business because we don't have the other flavors. In Jeff's business, if he was selling gelato, he would have the tiramisu, he'd have the Oreo cookie, and he'd have the cherry Italian ice. So we're going to hit a wider market with the ice cream parlor selling all different frozen desserts than we are just the gelateria. But we're going to make gelato a little later. What about eggs? Eggs you can have in ice cream if you want. Most people are leaving it out. If it was a vanilla, that would be called a French vanilla with the egg yolks in it. But the fear is eggs being contaminated. You can buy pasteurized eggs, but it's just more of a hassle than people are dealing with, for the most part.
Eggs are in ice cream?
Eggs are can be in ice cream. Custard. Yes.
How much did it cost to make that batch of ice cream?
Oh, it probably came out to, what would you say, well, what is a 4-ounce portion or 5-ounce portion cost?
Well, I sell, let's see, not a 5, but I sell a 12-ounce portion for $5, and I make $2.75 on it.
Okay.
So it's roughly 60%. If you can work around 50, I think if you can work around 55, 60%, you're good.
But it would depend what's in the ice cream, like the, obviously the...
So, you know what, after you have a few flavors, it all evens out. I have some that are much more expensive to make than others, but then I have others that are really inexpensive to make, so it all evens out.
Depends what you're putting in it.
Yes.
When you're packing the containers as the ice cream is coming out of the machine, do you have to worry about air pockets in the containers, or you're packing it with your spatula? How does that affect the production?
Well, you're not supposed to pack containers out of a batch freezer, because unless I do these large half gallons and I work very quickly, because otherwise your first ice cream can weigh heavier than your last ice cream. You're going to have inconsistency because it's not a packaging machine. It's a bulk machine. Again, back to the oven and that steak. If you take 5 minutes to get that steak out of the oven when it's medium rare, I guarantee you the first slice is medium rare, the last slice is well done. You have terrible inconsistency. If your whole business is packaging containers, You either take it all out in bulk in a large container like this, a 3-gallon container, or if you're doing hundreds and hundreds of pints, you buy a packaging machine.
Okay.
That's what you need to do.
I guess maybe I should be a little more specific. What I'm saying is if I'm producing, let's just say 10 gallons for business, or 15 gallons for the business of the day, if I'm going into a big container and and the product is dropping from the machine into the container, and there's air bubbles.
There won't be.
It'll all just settle
Right.
down. You don't have to pack
There's
it.
also a trick that I use, I don't know if we discussed it or not, but when you make, like, vanilla ice cream is going to be light and fluffy compared to a caramel crunch or something, or a heavy ice cream, which is more dense. When you make vanilla, it's going to double in the machine because it's whipping it up. So what I do, just to give it that little extra when it comes out, bang!
Yeah.
I bang it on the counter, and that, you can see it. It goes down considerably. And now I have a more creamy, luscious ice cream, a thicker ice cream.
And I do have one more, I'm sorry for all the questions, but
No, that's why we're here, why I'm here.
you're talking about the mixes. Do companies just make one standard, say 10 or 12 or 14%?
Oh, no,
or better?
no.
Can I get like a chocolate mix?
The question is about what companies make for mix. If you go online, Steve uses one company here in Clearwater, I use one in Boynton Beach, and they have a full page of all their different products. They go anywhere from 10% plain mix to 12% plain mix, 14, 16%, some even make 18% plain mix. Then they go to the vanilla mixes, then they go to the chocolate mixes, same thing. So you can get anything.
However, I'm usually buying a plain mix. I want to add my own vanilla because as much as we've extolled the virtues of a dairy is not going to go out and buy the world's best vanilla. I am. I'm going to go buy Lockheed vanilla made in the United States, or I'm going to buy Nielsen Massey made in the United States. These are two great American vanilla companies, and their business, like me, is family owned and specializing in one product, vanilla. So I'm going to add my own. Chocolate, same thing. A dairy is not going to go out and buy Guittard chocolate or Forbes chocolate or some of the other big names. And chocolate is very subjective. My wife you met coming in, Paula Thompson, our office manager, loves the very high-end Jacques Therese chocolates. Me, I get crazy over a bag of M&Ms. So we all have very subjective taste when it comes to vanilla. And what it comes down to is you have to make an ice cream that you like. This one we just made.
No, you have to make an ice cream that your customer likes.
Yeah, but it's also going to be one that you're proud of. So, in fact, I had a boss once, and I was working in the fire department, and I said, oh, this weekend I'm going to make some cheap vanilla to give out at the Fireman's Fund, so they can raise some money. He said, not on your life. That is your reputation on the line, and if it's going to cost you extra money to make the best vanilla in the world, that's what you serve, because people are going to judge you by the quality. So you have to be proud of it, and then you have to sell what the public wants. If you're selling bubblegum licorice ice cream because you think it's fantastic, I bet there aren't too many people in this audience who are going to like bubblegum licorice ice cream. It's a lousy flavor. You may like it. Get it off the menu. You had a question.
So there's a difference, if you're buying mix, you're making ice cream as opposed to gelato, you're buying the different mixes because they're butter fats, right? Or do you use the same mix?
The butterfats, well, yes, for gelato you're going to use a lower fat, 10% or less. For ice cream, the federal government says, and even to call this stuff ice cream, it has to be at least 10% fat. Haagen-Dazs is up at 16. Now that may not sound like a lot of difference, but think about it. If you buy whole milk at the supermarket, that's 4%. Now if you buy low-fat milk, that's 2%. There's a world of taste difference between whole milk and low fat, but it's only a 2% change. Now, we're going to get into this later, but let me get off camera for a second. Let me talk briefly about gelato, and then we'll make one this afternoon. The Italians making gelato, they have beef cows in Italy, but they don't have a lot of what I call moo cows. I'm from the Bronx, so I'm sorry, they're called moo cows. You know, those ones that give milk. The moo cows are in Argentina on the Pampas, and they're milked there, and then the fresh milk, the fresh out of the cow milk, is then spray dried into a powder. They take the fresh milk and they ram it through screens invented by Henningsen Foods, a guy I grew up with, and they turn it into a powder. The powder is then packed into a big ship and shipped over to Italy. And then it's packaged into pretty containers like this, and then it's shipped over to the Port of Elizabeth, and it's then trucked to you in the Midwest, and they say, now we want you to take this product, add water to it, repasteurize it, and now you're ready to make gelato. Now you tell me how that is a fresher, better product than me calling up the dairy in St. Pete or Boynton Beach or San Francisco or New York or Los Angeles and having that fresh dairy product that came out of the cow yesterday and delivered to me refrigerated and ready to pour into my machine. That's why I tell people, and I take a lot of static for it, Americans make better gelato than the Italians do because we're using fresh product. We're not using some powder that came out of a cow 10 months ago. Our product, just by the nature of it, is better. Yes?
I just had a real quick question. I'm making small batches of gelato at our restaurant now. With the whole mix thing, our health inspector didn't tell us about that. I'm just using cream and I make a custard. But anyway, so there's some I make that I steep things in the milk. And I take that bag, put it in the pot, and steep something to extract the flavor, and then put it back in the machine.
Yep. This customer, or this gentleman is a chef. He's running a restaurant, and all rules go out the window for someone of his caliber. Since he's a chef and since he's working in a restaurant and he's making small batches of artisanal gelato, the health department looks the other way. They say, this man knows everything about health regulations. All rules are just kind of, go away, because he knows what he's doing every day of the week. He knows about cutting of meats and vegetables and keeping them separate and working with dairy products. So you are the exception. The health department's never going to bother you. You are using what's called the French pot method, where you're putting all the ingredients together and you're heating it up and you're actually pasteurizing it while you're doing that. And so yes, they let you get away with it. Take those same wonderful skills that you have and put it into a retail store, and the health department's knocking on your door saying, you can't do that. It's unfortunate. Your way is terrific, but they don't allow it in retail or wholesale.
Can you take your machine and do what we're doing?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we are.
That's where I'm getting.
We're in the best hotels and restaurants in the world. It's not the machine that has anything to do with this. It's the ingredients that go into it.
You're talking basically using the mix is for retail.
Like
Absolutely.
shop?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, we're going to talk about this little machine in a second.
break? Coffee
Yeah, we're going to take a quick coffee break right now. Everybody that's watching, come back in about 10 minutes. We're going to get some coffee and walk around, stretch our legs, and then we'll be back. And then we're going to make Jeff's signature product. All right, thanks.